Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. The purpose of my selecting this verse is not to urge all of you to give up your family and go to Vrindavan and live there. That was a specific instruction that Prahlad gave to his father, Hiranyakashipu, who was very demoniac and who had no interest in spiritual life whatsoever. And therefore, Prahlad had to resort to such an extreme instruction for his own father. If one is a devotee of the Lord, it doesn't matter whether one is in household life or in renounced life, whether one is living in London or Manchester or Vrindavan. Grihe thako, vane thako, sada hari bole dako. As Bhakti Vinod Thakur has said, whether you stay in the forest or you stay at home, whether you're a renunciant or a householder, always chant the names of Lord Hari. Hari is another name for Krishna. So Hari is the antidote for worry. But if you want worry, then you should Hurry. That is a prescription for worry. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Everyone is hurrying, running here, running there. But if you want a solution to worry, then you must have Hari, Hari in your life, not Hurry. It will only increase your worry. So Prahlad is mentioning here, can you go up to the verse? That in this world, everyone is plagued with anxiety. Udvigna manah. Mana means mind. Udvigna means to be very disturbed, to be anxious, to be worried. Sada samudvigna. So, one who has taken shelter of asat or untruth, asat grahat means one who has taken shelter of falsehood, is always in a state of anxiety and fear and worry. Diya means intelligence. So, for a person who is living in untruth or falsehood, there will always be worry and anxiety. What is that falsehood? That falsehood is that I am this body. That falsehood is that there is no God. That falsehood is that this material world is made for my enjoyment. This falsehood is that I am the proprietor and master and enjoyer of everything I survey. The falsehood is that the goal of life is to enjoy myself as much as possible in this world. So these are the varieties of falsehoods that exist. And if we take shelter of such falsehoods amongst others, then that is a sure shot recipe for worry. In a sense, this material world has been designed or programmed to give us worry. Everybody worries. Any difference of opinion here? Anyone disagrees with this? Everyone worries at some point in time or the other, about something or the other, about someone or the other. Worry, worry, worry is a standard formula for everybody. In fact, if somebody doesn't worry, then people get worried. This person doesn't worry at all. What's wrong with him? I actually know a case like this where when they wanted to take their son to a psychologist because he just wasn't worried about anything. But of course, there are things that we should be worried about sometime, and there are things we shouldn't worry about. Unfortunately, we worry about the things that we shouldn't worry about, and we don't worry about the things that we should worry about. Last year, when I was in Vrindavan, we had gone for a parikrama. We went to a certain pastime place of the Lord, And on the way back, they were dropping me. I gave a class and then they dropped me back to the temple. So the temple driver was driving the car and he was going quite fast. And as you know, in India, people are not very fond of following traffic rules. And people also walk on the street randomly. And so accidents happen a lot in the roads in India. And this driver was driving really fast. So I was talking to the devotee, but my mind was getting distracted because this driver was really stepping on it. So then I first gently told him, just go slow. He said, yes, but he continued going fast. He slowed down for a few moments and then he went fast again. I told him, slow down. And then he said, oh, Srimati Radharani will protect us. I said, no, Srimati Radharani gets off the car at 70. When the car reaches 70 kilometers per hour, Radharani says, in India and with your driving and your car, I'm going to get off the car. So you are responsible for your life. Don't blame me afterwards and say, Radharani will protect, and why did you not protect us? Yes? So Radharani will protect, yes. Krishna will protect, yes. But that doesn't mean that we should be foolish. It doesn't mean that we should not take our precautions, that we should not use our intelligence and do what is necessary for our own safety and well-being. So people have a tendency, of course, to worry sometimes for the wrong things. That is something we can do without. So because worry is the nature of this world, you can't avoid it because there is fear. That is the nature of asat, falsehood. Falsehood will always give rise to fear, and truth will always give rise to fearlessness. Just like when you're against the sun, you're with your back to the sun, you'll always see darkness in front of you in the form of the shadow. When you're facing the sun, you'll see only light. So therefore, if we want to be free from worry, we have to be facing the truth, meaning we have to become Krishna conscious. There are many ways or many angles to look at this whole idea of worry, of anxiety. One is logic, just plain simple logic. One may not even be a devotee. The plain logic is worrying going to solve our problem? Is worrying going to make everything good? There is this little joke about this husband telling his wife, why do you keep worrying when it's not going to do you any good? And she replies, oh, but it does so much good. Because 90% of the things I worry about don't happen. You got the meaning of it? So, of course, what she didn't say was that she was worrying needlessly. In any case, those things were not going to happen. So she worried about them, and then they didn't happen, and then she felt that, well, because I worried about them, they never happened. But no. What's in your destiny will happen. So there are those who may be a little more advanced in the thinking and say, well, what's destined to happen will happen. So why should I worry about it? What is inevitable will happen. Why should I waste my mental energy and unnecessarily worry about something that I can't prevent? For example, can we prevent death? Yes, untimely, unnecessary death, yes. Perhaps, not always. But at some point in time, death will come. So why should we unnecessarily worry about something that is inevitable? In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur, dhruvam janma mritasya cha, tasmad apariharyerthe, natvam shochitum arhasi. Krishna says, for one who is born, death is certain. For one who has died, birth is certain. Therefore, my dear Arjuna, in the discharge of your duty, you should not worry about those things that are inevitable. Apariharya. Pariharya means that which can be rectified, which can be avoided, but apariharya indicates that which can't be avoided. So when something can't be avoided, if that's part of destiny that's going to happen, then why worry so much? Much of our anxieties in life happen because we struggle unnecessarily against our destiny. It doesn't mean that we accept everything as destiny and not do anything. We have to follow Guru Sadhu Shastra. We understand what is right, what is worth struggling for, and what is not worth struggling for. When to struggle, when not to struggle. That comes by wisdom. So generally, because when people worry and they don't have a higher solution, so they take shelter of various means, like intoxication, or perhaps they go to the movies, or they get into some form of sense gratification, just to take the mind away from their worry. One time I met one person who was smoking like a chimney. He was a chain smoker, went on smoking and smoking and smoking, and I asked him why. He said, because I have so much tension in my life. So I said, but this is going to increase your tension. If you study the pathology of the whole thing, of how the nicotine acts in your body, you may seem like you're giving yourself some relief, but actually you're only worsening the situation. So similarly, when we take shelter of intoxicants to get rid of our worries, which many people do in the world, it only worsens the problem, including things like coffee and tea and so on. So no need to take shelter of artificial things. So one can understand that this is destiny. It was going to happen. It happened. So why worry? One of my favorite stories, it's a true story, which I repeat often, is about this merchant, a businessman in India, in Jaipur. And every day in the morning, it was his practice that he would go to have darshan of Govinda Dev. Govinda Dev is the most famous deity and temple in Jaipur. The deity of Govinda Dev was originally in Vrindavan. But somehow, because of fear of the invading Mughals, the deity, who were iconoclasts, they would damage temples and so on. So most of the original deities of Vrindavan were moved to other places. Largely in Rajasthan, the western Indian state of Rajasthan, where there were Rajput Vaishnava kings. So in their kingdom, the deities were safe. So Govinda Dev was there. So it is a custom of many people in that city. They always begin their day by taking darshan of Govinda Dev. And they don't go anywhere else. They don't start their work. They don't go to their business or their job until they have had darshan of Govinda Dev. A very nice practice, actually. Such a beautiful culture. When people just wake up in the morning, they get fresh, and then they decide the first thing I must do is to take darshan of the Lord. So every day he would come. So one time he was walking towards the temple. There was still a few minutes left for the Mangalarati to begin. And he suddenly got news that there was a fire in his godown. He had a lot of his merchandise in the godown. So naturally he rushed back to the godown. He had come from his house. So he rushed to his godown and he saw that the whole godown was up in flames. There was nothing he could have done about it. Of course, people had already called the fire engines, and the fire engines were rushing there. And so he stood there looking at his whole life savings, perhaps, all his merchandise going up in flames. right there and then in front of his eyes. And the fire was too big for him to do anything about. In any case, the fire engines were already coming there and they would have done anything. There was nothing he could have done personally to stop the fire now. It was too late. So what he did was, he looked at the situation, stayed there for 5 minutes, analyzed the whole condition, saw everything. The fire engines had come and they were trying to pour water. He walked back to the temple. And somebody said, "What's wrong with you? You're going, your entire go-down is in flames. And where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to the temple." The temple, when your go-down is burning, he said, "Look, it's already burning. There's nothing I can do about this. I can't go carrying buckets of water and putting. It's futile. The fire has spread so much that there's no hope now. It's all gone. And in any case, these fire engines are here. They're doing whatever they can. Whatever gets salvaged, gets salvaged. I can't even go near the fire right now. So why should I just stand here and look at this misfortune and then just worry about it and moan about why this has happened to me? Why should I waste my opportunity? I should go and get the darshan of Govinda Dev in the Mangalarati." So he went, he had his darshan to his heart's content, and then came back to deal with the reality of worldly life. Whatever else was the damage, he had to survey what was damaged, whether anything was still, salvageable, whether there was insurance and this and that. But he went ahead. He realized this is the reality. It's Govinda Dev who has given me everything, and it's Govinda Dev who's taking away everything. So who am I to complain? Yes. So this is what it takes to be always immune from unnecessary worry, even in very extreme situations like this. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that if tomorrow there is a fire in the temple, then we should say, "Well, we just heard in the lecture that we should have faith and just sit and chant our rounds." Of course, it's a matter of common sense also. So if there's a fire now, we drop everything. We're chanting our rounds, drop your chanting beads, just rush and deal with the fire. But the situation of that merchant was quite different. But he didn't stay there and lament. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also says, "Ashochan anvashochastvam prajna badam shibhashase gatasuna gatasunshcha nanu shochanti panditaha." He says a pandita or a learned person, one who's truly learned, doesn't lament for that which exists or that which has gone. So there is no need. One doesn't lament for that which is not worthy of lamentation. As far as this businessman was concerned, he saw that his goods were already gone. So why should he lament for it? When it was there, he wasn't anxious. He understood that this is Govinda Dev's business. And he was putting his intelligence and his ability and his time and energy into it. And with whatever was happening, the transactions in the business were going on. He was making a decent livelihood. Life was going on. But if Govinda Dev chose to destroy his business through whatever instrument, for whatever reason, then he was okay with it. So when we come to the point of spiritual logic and knowledge, we go from the point of view of ordinary logic, we come to the point of destiny, and then we go further to understanding the hand of God, the hand of the Lord behind everything. Also, when we get spiritual knowledge, we understand that, well, we are the spirit soul. And even when this body is destroyed, I am not destroyed. So that gives a sense of fearlessness. It gives a freedom from worry. So then one automatically becomes peaceful at heart. In this process of trying to become Krishna conscious, we realize all over the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells us not to worry. Natvam shrochitum arhasi. You don't deserve to lament like this. So many times this comes. Natvam shrochitum arhasi. Or he says, Ma shuchaha. Don't worry. Don't be afraid. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. O Arjuna, abandon all varieties of dharma and simply surrender unto me alone. I will deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Ma shuchaha. So time and time again in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives us that assurance that he will protect us. And he urges us not to worry, not to be anxious, not to be fearful. But all we have to do is to take shelter of him. We have to have that faith. There was this very wealthy man who had this habit of worrying. He would worry and worry and worry about so many things. So one day he went to an astrologer. Please tell me what's in my chart, because somehow I just keep on worrying. I worry about what would happen in my business, what would happen in my family. So the astrologer looked at his chart and he said, your chart, there's nothing wrong here. You're quite fine. It's just unnecessary anxiety that you're getting into. I would suggest you go to the temple, Hare Krishna temple here, and you hear Bhagavad Gita, and then you'll be all right. So he said, all right. So he went to one devotee, and he said, I worry so much, and the astrologer told me I should come and hear Bhagavad Gita. So will you teach me Bhagavad Gita? So the devotee said, yes, of course I'll teach you. But if we have to go through the whole 18 chapters, it's going to take me 3 months. We'll have to sit and I'll have to explain everything step by step. He said, 3 months? That's too much. I'm a busy businessman. I don't have so much time. Can't you give me something in a shorter span of time? He said, okay, maybe we can do one chapter. The 18th chapter, which is like the summary of the whole Bhagavad Gita. But that will take a minimum of 2 weeks. We'll have to study this chapter thoroughly. 2 weeks. I don't have that much time. Okay. Then let's talk about one verse from Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Yes, the same verse that I just quoted now. There's just one verse. But you have to come and at least sit with me for 2 hours. And then, we'll talk about it, and then you'll become free from worry, because Krishna says, you have to not worry. Oh, no, 2 hours is too much. One verse is too long. Tell me a shorter way of getting free. He said, okay. Krishna says in this verse, Ma shuchaha, don't worry. Just don't worry. But so I've come to you to know how to not worry. You can't have the cake and eat it too. You have to give time. So we want to be free from worry, then we have to follow the process. It's not going to happen overnight. There are no shortcuts to this. In this day and age, we want shortcuts for everything. Quick fix solutions for everything. Fast food, fast communication, fast everything, fast cars. But some things in life don't happen so fast. So we must be willing to give time to it. We must be willing to take a little trouble to learn the process of how to become free from worry eternally. That's a science to learn in the association of devotees, and by studying the devotional literature and taking up spiritual practices. As we take to the path of devotional service to Lord Krishna and we understand spiritual knowledge, gradually we start feeling some inspiration, some happiness, some freedom from anxiety, and we start developing our faith in Krishna. That faith is a very strong antidote to anxiety and worry. Like that businessman in Jaipur. He had such staunch faith in the Lord that even such a big calamity, what other people would have considered a big calamity in life, didn't perturb him so much. He remained peaceful and equipoised. So faith is our protection. Faith is our shield that will protect us from all kinds of anxieties and worry. Just like a child. When a child goes out, he may be bullied by the neighborhood boys who are older than him or bigger than him. And so he gets very worried and fearful. But when the child goes with the father holding the father's hands or the mother's hands, then he sees the older boys there, but now he's fearless. Because he knows, I'm with my father, I'm with my mother. Now these older boys can't do anything to me. So because this child has taken shelter of the mother or the father, has complete faith in the protection of the father or the mother, he is free from anxiety. No worry. Even when the older bullies come along, he has no fear. So Srila Prabhupada explains that when we take shelter of the Supreme Lord, we are like that child who takes shelter of a parent. And one experiences complete peace, even in the midst of challenges. It's not that when we become a devotee, the problems will stop. No. The problems will continue because that's the nature of the world. The world has been designed like that. However, our capacity to deal with the problems and anxieties will be enhanced so much that we will not get disturbed. There is this little one story I had heard long ago. Very nice little story. It's not found in any scripture or anything, but it gives us a nice lesson. You may have perhaps heard it also sometime. There was this mountain climber, a rock climber. Any of you do rock climbing? Any mountaineers here? So there was this person who had a hobby of climbing mountains. So you know, when you climb a mountain, you have to have a rope around your waist, and usually you connect it to some place which is secure. So even if you slip as you're climbing the rock or the mountain, then you still are protected because you'll hang with the rope, hang from the rope, you know, so you won't fall down completely. So he was climbing and climbing and climbing. He was almost near the top, and all of a sudden he slipped. And it was a slippery, rocky surface. There were pebbles. So he fell all the way down. As he was dying, falling in free fall, he was going down. Of course, the rope was still tied to him. And the other end, the rope was tied to the cliff. That was secure. But as he was falling down, when he was in free fall, he was in a state of shock. He was trying to process what was happening. It took perhaps a second or so. That seems like a very long time, yes? Once I was in a flight coming to England, and the plane went through some turbulence, and it went through a free fall. Have you been through that sometimes? The plane just drops, you know? So it just goes for a fraction of a moment. But it seems everybody, notices that. And in this case, it went for longer than that fraction of a second. It must have been for maybe 1 second or 2 seconds. It seemed like a long time. But it just went like that. And we were in free fall for maybe 1 second, or I don't remember the time. And there was a lady sitting on my side. She started screaming. And everybody were holding on to their seats. Yes, you realize you're completely helpless. That's the nature of this material world. However powerful we may be, when we face material nature, we are insignificant, negligible. What are we in the face of the wrath or the power of nature? Nothing. So in any case, this person was going in free fall, and he was holding his rope, and he fell and fell and fell, and finally it reached the end of the rope, and he was dangling on that rope. By this time, it was already dusk. It had got a little dark, so he could not see anything around him. So it was very cold. It was winter, and he was hanging from this rope, okay, for dear life, and he couldn't see anything. So he was calling out in desperation. He wasn't a devotee, but there are no atheists in the foxhole. There is a saying like that. You know what a foxhole is? When there is a war going on, and soldiers, what they do is they dig a pit, a ditch in the ground. They go into the pit, and they put sandbags in front, and then standing in the pit and behind the sandbags, and they fire at the enemy. The enemies are also doing similarly. So when you're in that foxhole, so that pit is called a foxhole. So when you're in that foxhole, at that time nobody is an atheist, Everybody is praying, God, please save me. Please ensure that the bullet doesn't hit me, because you never know where a bullet will come from and strike you. So there's a proverb like that there is no atheist in the foxhole. So this person was also not really a believer or a devotee, but now when he was in this predicament, he started praying to God, God, please save me, please help me. He was fervently praying like this for quite a few minutes. And suddenly he heard a voice. My dear child, I am God. Where are you? Where are you? No, you will not see me now. Please save me. What do you want me to do? Please save me, O Lord. Please save me. All right, I am here to save you. Do you have faith? Yes, that's why I called out to you. Please save me. All right, if you have faith, then do as I say. Will you do as I say? Yes, my Lord, anything. Cut the rope. In one version of the joke, he says, he pauses for a while, and then he shouts out loud, is there anyone else out there? But in the original version of the story, he clings on. He's afraid to cut the rope. He has a knife, a pocket knife, but he's afraid to cut because he doesn't know what's going to happen. If he cuts, how far is he going to fall? He doesn't know. And then the next morning, people were looking for him because he hadn't reached the top. So his friends and others were searching all over, and they came early in the morning at sunrise to search for him. And they found him, frozen to death, still dangling from the rope, and his feet were just 2 feet above the ground. Yes? I'll let you digest that. So had he cut the rope, what would have happened? He would have just fallen 2 feet. Nothing would have happened. He would have got saved. But he didn't have that faith that he should cut the rope. What will happen if I do this? So that is the issue. Now, having faith doesn't mean being foolish, okay? We have to be intelligent in placing our faith. We can't place our faith in all sorts of wrong things. We can't be sentimental in placing our faith. Our faith has to come from transcendental knowledge, from scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita. It has to have a sound philosophical foundation. So therefore it is so important that we come in the association of devotees and we develop a good understanding of this philosophy. At least the basic ideas, the concepts, we should understand that very clearly. And as we understand the philosophy, then we will become more inclined to follow the practices. And then as we go on practicing, then gradually, step by step, Shraddha Bhakti Rati Anukramishati. Shraddha Rati Bhakti Anukramishati. So step by step everything will come. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti hrit karna rasayana katha tad joshanad ashvapa vargavartmani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramishati. So this is a beautiful verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam that is spoken by Lord Kapila, where he says that if one associates with the devotees, because he is the Lord, he says my devotees. If one associates with the devotees of the Lord and hears his glories, then one will always make swift advancement on the path of spiritual life. Bhavanti hrit karna rasayana katha. So these narrations about the Lord, the holy names of the Lord, will become very pleasing to the ear and to the heart. Initially one may not find it like that, but as one starts getting a taste, a little understanding of this, then one starts liking it. It turns out to be very nectarian. One wants to hear more, one wants to read more, one likes to chant more, to serve more. So when one does that, then very quickly one makes advancement on the spiritual path, and Shraddha, that is faith, Rati, that is attachment, and Bhakti, that means love of God, will all develop step by step. So when we practice Krishna consciousness, the Shraddha or the faith will grow. And that is our best protection against all forms of worry. When there are practical problems, we should do the needful to take care of them. As I said earlier, it is not that having faith in Krishna or dependence on Krishna means laziness or negligence of one's duty and using one's intelligence and energies. But there are times when we understand that our intelligence and ability will be of no use. There are times when we just take shelter of the Lord and we find enormous peace there. Prahlad Maharaj also says, Naivod vijay paraduratya vaitaranyas tvad-virya gayana mahamrita magna chittaha shoche tato vimukha chetasa indriyartha Maya sukhaya bharam udvahato vimudhan. He says, my dear Lord Nrsimhadev, this material world is a place that you have designed for worry and fear and anxiety. But I am not worried. I am not anxious for myself. Na udvijay. I am not at all disturbed in this fearful material world. Paraduratyaya vaitaranyas. This material world is practically impossible to cross over. The anxieties and fears of this world are so horrible that very hard to transcend them. But I am not worried about it. Why? Tvad virya gayana mahamrita magna chittaha. Because my chittaha, my consciousness, is magna, is engrossed in the nectarian glorification of your activities and pastimes and messages and names. Because I'm constantly hearing and chanting about you, I'm free from all these worries. But my only worry is, he has one worry, but that's not for himself. Shoche tato vimukhat chetasa indriyartha. I am worried about those people. Shocha means to lament. Shoche tato indriyartha. I'm lamenting for those people who have turned their backs to you, who are averse to your service and to your devotional service, and who are simply engrossed in trying to enjoy this material world through the temporary pleasures of life. I'm worried for them. Shoche tato indriyartha, for the sake of this the gratification of the senses. I'm only worried for them. So as devotees, we have no worry on our account personally, or we should not have. But we worry about how we can deliver this antidote to worry for everybody else. How we can give everybody this highest gift of Krishna consciousness. That worry is good. That worry will make us more free from the worry for ourselves. See, when you're too preoccupied with your own problems, then you get very, very worried. But when you start helping other people in their problems, then you forget your problems. You forget your worries in life. So a devotee of the Lord will always dedicate himself or herself not only for his or her own salvation, but also to give Krishna consciousness to others and give them perfect happiness and success in life. Hare Krishna. Before you get too worried that the lecture is going on too long and you'll miss out on the prasadam, I better stop here to avoid needless worry. Are there any questions? Sorry?
Hare Krishna. Can I ask a question? Hare Krishna Maharaj, I
Hare
just want to
Krishna.
know if we do make people,
If you do what?
if, as you say in your talk, give Krishna consciousness to others,
Yes.
won't they worry about giving to others?
Yes. That's the perfection of their life, to start worrying about others and giving them Krishna consciousness. So we should not be only aspiring to be free from worry. No, that's selfish. But don't worry for the wrong reason. That's the point. Don't worry for that which you needn't worry about, which you should not worry about. But worry about how you can give Krishna to everyone. And when that person gets Krishna, he or she will start worrying about how to give Krishna to someone. So we want to make a civilization of worried people. But who are worrying for the right reason. Who are worrying for Krishna. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Transcendental worry. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. You'll say, if you tell this to somebody, you better explain it, because they may say, what kind of spiritual association you're going by? We hear in all the yoga classes and everything that we take to spiritual life to become peaceful and become free from worry. And here we are being told to increase your worry. What kind of spirituality is that? Yes, Prabhupada had so much worry. In fact, he said at one time that the yogis sitting in the Himalayas have no headaches, because they're sitting there doing their own thing and worrying about or working on their own salvation. But I have to worry about so many devotees, worrying about how to spread this Krishna consciousness movement everywhere. I have so many headaches, he said. So the goal of life is not to be free of headaches. The goal of life is not to be free of worry. And the goal of life is to develop pure love for Krishna and to enable others to get that pure love for Krishna.
So didn't Prabhupada say something like, if he gets a book, then his life will be perfect if he reads the book?
Say that again?
Yeah, sorry, I was just saying. If Prabhupada said that if someone gets one of his books, then their life becomes perfect if they read it.
Yes, if
What if they
someone
don't
gets
read the book?
Prabhupada's book, they will read it, their life will become perfect. Yes, correct. Absolutely. Thank you. Yes.
In this material world, everybody is running for sense gratification. There's no doubt about that. How do you balance the two? Running for some sense gratification, but still having Krishna consciousness at the same time, because they might come a little bit in the morning at the temple, do a bit, but then they run off to satisfy their senses there, then and then they're back in, and how do you integrate the two together and start moving towards the spirituality side more and less towards...
Okay, good question. By gratifying the senses, the answer is by gratifying the senses in connection with Krishna. See, we can't do without sense gratification. You can't make it zero because it's not possible. What is the meaning of sense gratification? It means that your senses have certain needs and you fulfill them, right? So our tongue desires to taste something nice. Now, can you completely avoid that? Your belly wants to eat, it wants to be full. So can you avoid that? You have to eat. But eat food that is prepared with love and devotion and offered to Krishna. So we spiritualize our sense gratification. Only that sense gratification is permissible which is permitted in connection with Krishna. So you like to eat good food, then eat food that is offered to Krishna. Eat varieties of delicious Krishna prasadam. You like music, you want to hear melodious sounds, hear sounds like we have been hearing. All our young devotees have such a taste for chanting the holy names, yes? See how enthusiastically and lovingly they chant, yes? So why not do that? Other boys and girls of their age are probably hearing other kinds of music. So they're hearing this devotional kind of music. So your urge to hear music is fulfilled, but in connection with Krishna. You want to use your eyes to see something, see the beautiful form of the Lord. You have an intellectual curiosity, you want to learn some things new, learn the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. In this way, all the senses can be engaged in Krishna's service, and that form of sense gratification is legitimate. So we should gradually transform our sense gratification to legitimate sense gratification. Okay? Any other question? Yes. Mike, please, on this side.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. It's a very nice talk about not to worry. In the story you mentioned that person climbing over the mountain. So that leap of faith, everybody has some faith, like you said, foxhole. Everybody will be believing in the God at the situation. But that to get that some faith to the level of faith Prabhupada had all the time, not just morning during the Mangalarti time and again evening, Prasadam time. It's constantly having the same 100% faith. How can we get to that stage?
That is the answer. The answer is given in the verse I quoted from Lord Kapila. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido. The more we associate with devotees, the more we hear about Krishna, the more we chant about Krishna, the more we serve Krishna, the sooner the faith will develop and the stronger it will be. Faith begets faith. Faith can only come from where it exists. Faith is found in the association of devotees and in the devotional process. So if we associate with these things, then we will get faith. And our faith will keep getting stronger with time. And as far as a leap of faith, that's the difference between weak faith and strong faith. What is the use of faith if it is only in good times? When everything is going well, we have faith in the Lord, strong faith. When the first sign of any disturbance in life, we lose our faith, then there is no meaning to that faith. It's very easy to have faith when everything is going well. Faith comes into question when things are not going well from our ordinary point of view. So therefore Krishna places a lot of emphasis on faith in the Bhagavad Gita. Ashraddhana purusha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapyamam nivartante mrityu samsara sagarat. He says, for one who doesn't have faith in the process of devotional service will have to take birth again and again in this material world. Okay? Yes. On the mic, please. 1 minute.
Prabhupada said very beautifully, I don't know where I read it, but he said that when the difficulty comes, the faith should never go away, because when you're leaving your body, you're going to be in so much difficulty at that time that if you can't remember me in times of distress, you will never be able to remember me at the time when you're leaving this body. And that's why he said you should never run away from your problems, but face them, but keeping faith into me. Running away is an easy solution, but he said never run away from the problems, always face them and keep me with you at that time. So I thought that was really beautiful what he had written.
Very nice. Thank
Yeah.
you. Absolutely. But we should face our problems in Krishna consciousness. And just a comment about the earlier thing about worrying and how we are a society of warriors. Also warriors. Warriors. But remember, it's not only about worrying. You should also experience that transcendental joy in just sitting and hearing about Krishna and chanting about Krishna. That also is important, because if you are not feeling fulfilled and happy and joyful, you will not be able to get the enthusiasm to share this with others and be concerned about others. You will not feel the pain of others unless you yourself have been experiencing this happiness of Krishna consciousness, and then you want to very badly give it to others. So if we're doing our basic Krishna conscious practices of hearing and chanting and feeling happy is also very important. Okay? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, I was going to say I do feel happy, but now I want to ask one more question.
Sure,
I-
sure.
i- in
You
the
mind
Shab-
speaking a little slower? I have a little, and the accent I will have to, yeah, a little slow, yeah.
Slow down.
So, yeah,
In the Srimad Bhagavatam,
yes.
Queen Kunti prays, could there be some more calamities?
Oh, Queen Kunti asked for praise for more calamities. Yes.
So should we pray for more calamities?
What is the vote? Let's take a vote. You know, we are living in a modern democracy. So, should we follow in the footsteps of Queen Kunti and beg for more calamities in our life? How many say yes, we should beg for more calamities? Okay. My response is, don't we have enough already? Yes, we have enough already. You know, the point is, see, Kunti Maharani's statement is her bhav, is her mood. And she's in a certain exalted state of Krishna consciousness where she's speaking like this. We have to be realistic about our faith. When she undergoes unlimited difficulty, her faith grows stronger. Will it be so for us? Will we be able to maintain our faith? We pray for something, Krishna give us calamity, and when the calamity comes, Krishna, why did you do this to me? Do we have the faith to back up that prayer? Are we on that platform where we can say that I will accept anything and everything you do in my life, Krishna, as your mercy, I will happily accept it? Do we have that faith? So, you see, praying to Krishna is a dangerous thing. You should know what to pray for. Right? So, we should not unnecessarily pray for things that will cause a disruption in our Krishna consciousness. As far as calamities are concerned, they are coming anyway, without asking for them. Like uninvited guests, they come into our life. Right?
Well, Maharaj, so we shouldn't pray for calamities, or we should?
I would suggest you pray for devotion to the Lord. Yes? Then everything else will follow. Okay?
Haribol Maharaj,
Hare
thank
Krishna.
you for the lovely lecture. And likewise, Prabhuji said that that's written in Bhagavad Gita. But most of the books as well, like we were reading Nectar of Instructions, and that also Rupa Goswami has said many things that we cannot, actually we don't want to sometimes follow practically.
Like?
Like to control our senses. Like he has written that even if we offer prashadam, we should not cook very much, too much varieties. That means while cooking, our nature would be like we are going to consume it. So we should cook limited things, and we should offer limited things. And to we should not go out, and we should not eat out. Like for a certain things we can control ourselves, but practically sometimes it's not very much suitable for us, and to control our senses so much. So what are the limitations we should follow at this level? Because of course Rupa Goswami has written that he was at some other level.
Yeah, but he has written these instructions for us.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada has written purports for the modern time.
Yes.
In Rupa Goswami's time, there was no such thing as a restaurant. Yes?
Yeah.
So, but Prabhupada's time there was. So he told us, don't go and eat out in hotels and restaurants. So we should follow that. Because who are the cooks? They're not devotees. And everything is cooked in those places. They cook meat, they cook everything. And then with the same vessels, same spoons, same persons cooking everything. Even if it's a so-called vegetarian place, it's not cooked with devotion, it's not offered to the Lord. So why should we eat outside? Eat only food cooked by devotees, which is offered with love to Krishna. So the things that Srila Prabhupada says in his purport are very practical, and we should try to follow them. Yes? Okay. Yes, one last question, because we're already talking of prasadam. So, yes, I think at the back first. Last question.
I totally agree with Mataji what she said, because the books also say that if you start cooking too much flavorsome food as well, and offering it to Krishna, even though you're offering it, over a period of time you'll again start falling into another type of sense gratification. You forget Krishna, and then you just start getting more involved in, oh, this is yummy food, oh, I'm enjoying the food, and the food only becomes the sort of thing. It's explained in the text that it can go the other way around as well if you're not careful.
Yes, indeed. Prabhupada says in the Nectar of Instruction purport that one should not eat too much, even if it is prasadam. Yes? And one time, this little story that I tell, one time in one particular ISKCON temple, a large temple, there were many items being offered every day to the deities. And so many items, 10, 15, 20, 25 items for the Lord. And every day, the sweet rice that would come out after being offered, the Mahaprasadam, would disappear. And the pujaris couldn't figure out who was taking it. And in those days, they didn't have the CCTVs and all that, right? That's the relatively recent thing. So in those days, there was no such thing. So they tried to figure out, they kept it here, they kept it there, but wherever the pujari hid it, he found it used to vanish. So then it became a serious matter. The matter came up to the temple president. The temple president also tried to investigate and, keep some guards, devotee guards to watch over to see who is stealing this Mahaprasadam, And finally, after some days, they caught the devotee. He was a brahmachari in the temple, and he would steal the Mahaprasadam from the Rajbhog every day. sweet rice. So the temple president confronted him. You're creating so much havoc. We've all been worried who's been stealing this, and why have you been stealing? So he scolded him a bit. So, he tried to speak a little philosophy, the brahmachari. But it's all Krishna Prasadam. So I love Krishna Prasadam. So why are you, scolding me for doing something spiritual? Krishna Prasadam is non-different from Krishna. So he was giving the temple president some philosophy. Now the temple president was more experienced in the philosophy. So he said, yes, I agree with everything you said. The sweet rice that is offered there is Krishna Prasadam, is non-different from Krishna. But why is it you are only stealing the sweet rice and never the bitter melon, never the dal, never the rice? Why only the sweet rice? Because when you steal the sweet rice, you're stealing it not because it's Mahaprasadam, but because it's tasty, it's sweet, it's delicious. That's your consciousness. So if you had stolen sometimes the bitter melon, sometimes the rice, sometimes this and that, I wouldn't have been upset with you. So yes, even if it is Krishna Prasadam, we still have to see that we don't overeat. But now we can certainly go and partake of the prasadam. So Krishna Prasadam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hare Krishna.